You terminated her employment for exhibiting kindness. Lily committed a grave error. Kind server in a rural community. The cafe provided support to a biker who faced unfair treatment. Assessed by the clientele as a troublemaker. Instead of receiving commendation, her employer terminated her, yet her benevolence persisted. Remained unobserved 30 minutes subsequently. The biker returns with his entourage, preparing to depart. A sequence of occurrences that will transform Lily's life in manners she never envisioned. Greetings to all, welcome return to revealed stories. Today, I have another poignant narrative to share. Lily had been employed at the cafe for years, selecting its warmth and experience with larger. This place presented her with greater opportunities. It was more than just a place of employment, it was also her secondary residence. The space to which she belonged among the regulars addressed her by name, and she recognized their instructions prior to their inquiry at one. An elderly man exerted effort to lift a table, his cup trembled in his weak hands, aged like Lily. Halted, carefully stabilizing his grip as he raised the coffee to his lips. The old man murmured softly, "Let me help you." He chuckled, his eyes sparkling with "Thank you for your kindness, my darling. As always." Lily smiled while observing our well-being as elderly individuals. Someone must fulfill that role. She jested playfully. Wink. Prior to proceeding with such actions were instinctive to her, subtle motions that endeared her to the regular patrons. It was not the compensation that retained her here. Was the populace the essence of community? Her colleagues frequently jested that she prioritized consumer satisfaction over the cafe owner, expressing a sentiment that was inappropriate. Her distance from the truth persisted as the tempest continued unabated, colliding with the windows in an unyielding cadence. The constant percussion occupied the interludes between dialogues. When Lily's eyes shifted to the street, traced by a shadow across the road, amidst the downpour, a motorcycle appeared. Rain illuminated its headlights, cutting through. The bike gradually came to a halt in the misty atmosphere. At the curb, its rider is a nebulous figure. The door parted against the tempestuous wind. For a brief moment, all conversations in the cafe ceased, rainwater cascading off his leather. The jacket dripped on the floor. His rugged appearance promptly captivated attention, tattoos coiling down his arms, dense facial hair around a withered visage, and footwear coated with mud. The biker advanced silently. Inside, rainwater seeping from spilling onto the floor. His glance traversed the room. However, he maintained his head position reduced, as if attempting to diminish beneath the weight of the stairs. Softened by his boots, strikes the wooden floor with a thump as he approaches parents. A corner table with parents immediately drew their children nearer. Their fatigued gazes revealing disquietude enveloped a man attired in a suit as he shuffled uneasily in his chair, his gaze rushing toward the motorcycle before swiftly averted gazes induced a subdued tension. Over the room, the type that resonated more profoundly. It was evident what everyone meant beyond mere words. Perceived him as a source of trouble, somebody who was out of place in their tranquility. Cafe. Lily observed the situation with predictability. Reveal her heart from behind the counter. Submerging the burden of evaluation in the atmosphere in the room was nearly palpable, and she was able to observe the discomfort inscribed on the biker's visage as he silently proceeded towards the most distant corner of his shoulders, stooped, and his wet jacket left a minor puddle on the floor. Following a brief interval, Lily inhaled deeply, resolute to alleviate the anxiety. She seized a towel. Out from behind the counter and advanced. She gave a bright smile across the table. She extended the towel towards him, greeting, "Hi there. The weather outside is somewhat inclement, isn't it?" The motorcyclist gazed upward, his countenance becoming gentler. Her benevolent tone indicated that I merely required assistance. Temporarily sheltered from the storm to warm up. "May I offer you anything to eat?" Lily inquired about the drink, her smile steadfast. He hesitated momentarily, contemplating only coffee. Stated, subsequently augmenting with a suggestion of embarrassment, "Caused me to leave my wallet in another location. I did not even realize until I had the jacket here." Lily perceived the shame in him. His eyes and his tendency to evade her gaze. Through her eyes, she could perceive his emotions. Not merely the exasperation of forgetfulness, his wallet, as well as the burden of the critical steps from the alternative. The customer should not be concerned, she stated, warmly. "The coffee is my treat." "How is that? A sandwich that appears to be needed by you." The biker shook his head in disapproval. "That is excessively generous, I decline." Lily responded that it was no inconvenience. A comforting smile, "Remain in that position, I will." Lily returned momentarily. The cashier unlocked her tip container with several dollar bills. She requested a sandwich and served a fresh cup of coffee. Maintaining equilibrium, she meticulously carried the steaming cup. After placing it down gently, she remarked, "the sandwich will require a few minutes to prepare." Anxious as she awaited the meal to prepare for a middle-aged man seated and reclined in his chair with his family, his voice resonated loudly enough for everyone to hear. Throughout the cafe, his tone imbued with disdain resembles the demeanor of biker gangs. "Isn't it sufficiently detrimental that they are making their rounds? They are demolishing bars in several nearby towns." His remark elicited some apprehensive chuckles and furtive stares from adjacent tables. The tension intensified throughout the room as if everyone was collectively restraining the rider who had been silently breathing. He paused momentarily while sipping his coffee. His attention shifted toward the man, then swiftly to the ground. His shoulders he stiffened and set the mug down. His gaze cautiously flashed toward the departure, a nuanced yet revealing gesture that Lily was promptly apprehended for. Observing him intently, not because there was suspicion, although it stemmed from worry, his demeanor reflected a man accustomed to scrutiny and the weight of his actions. Using assumptions, he had been silent since he appeared prepared upon entry. Lily departed without hesitation. She retreated toward the family's table, her expression serene, but she stated resolutely, "Excuse me, kind yet assertive, he is more dependent on obtaining caution and partaking in a supper that is inconsequential, occurred in a different town, lacks any interaction with him." The man arched an eyebrow slightly arched forward, unaware that he indicated subtly toward the motorcyclists. "Those like him do not. You should simply stop by for coffee, exercise caution." "Regarding somebody you are so enthusiastic to defend," Lily maintained her position, her voice unwavering as she said that she is aware he has not caused any trouble since his arrival. He is only seated there, attending to his own affairs. Is that not sufficient? The man appeared astonished, as though he did not anticipate her to resist his wife rested a hand on his arm, whispering. Muttered something quietly, and he permitted an exhalation audibly while reclining in his chair with a contemptuous toss of his head as Lily averted her gaze upon observing the motorcyclist. He adjusts his seat and focuses his gaze. He positioned his chair toward the departure door, gently scraping on the floor, and she seized his jacket and approached him. Swiftly apprehending him prior to his ability to act, she spoke gently, her voice mild yet firm. "It is evident that your departure is unnecessary at this time." The rider hesitated amid the heavy rain, his eyes shimmering with an indefinable quality between appreciation and discomfort. "I wish to avoid causing any further." He gently expressed his concern in a gruff way. "However, you are not being mean. You are not inflicting harm." Lily told him that people can express their opinions, desiring anything does not define them. Indeed, she bestowed upon him a cordial grin, harboring hope to alleviate his suffering. Before turning, the worker returned to the counter, exchanged ambiguous glances yet declined. Their moans are diminishing into the air. Lily redirected her focus and resumed her labor, her mind still reflecting on the dialogue she engaged in hearing, although prior to her contemplation, additional information regarding the gentle chime of the doorbell indicated a fresh arrival, and heads instinctively oriented toward Mr. Carver, the proprietor of the cafe, entered, shaking the rain off a man in his late 50s with an umbrella. Conservatively attired with a fitted vest and beautifully polished shoes, creating an aura of his keen eyes scrutinized the authority. His keen eyes scrutinized the authority of the cafe, not out of concern for the environment, but rather because the financial outcome and customer satisfaction were of no concern to him. He has received training in benevolence or connection, maintaining business stability and maximizing revenues. Upon entering, his gaze surveyed the room with habitual efficiency. The hum of chatter was absent, supplanted by a charged silence that typically accompanies his presence. Drew cordial grins and salutations from the regulars today, yet the familiar faces were obscured by apprehension and exuberance. Planted by subdued anxiety, Lily, positioned behind the counter, observed. Her glance traversed the room, and she identified a certain customer, a man she had previously recognized. He had been overtly irritated when she defended the motorcyclist subsequent to the individual's actions pertinent to the AK. He now stood near the doorway, with his family indicating towards the counter. His body language emanated reactions, and he conversed concisely with Carver, although AK was unable to hear the precise terminology. Still, the recurrent gazes she cast in her direction and toward the motorcyclist sat silently in the corner. It is evident what the topic of his discourse is. Lily experienced a sinking feeling in her stomach as she lodged a complaint. Observed him shake his head in his gestures increasingly reflect disappointment more acute before he pivoted and guided the family exited cafe. Lily. The other patrons in the vicinity evaded her gaze during their uncomfortable shifting and subdued whispers, revealing their discomfort accompanied by several exchanged awkward glances, evidently uncertain on how to respond to the judgment that had persisted in the atmosphere since the biker's arrival now appeared. It was also directed toward here, evident to Carver, the typically hospitable, the bustling cafe has transformed into a venue of dissatisfied customers who were not merely apprehensive. His eyes unmistakably conveyed discontent. Alternated between the biker and Lily prior to advancing toward the counter. Frustration clenched his jaw. Lily. That his voice was incisive and intentional. Lily required immediate communication and turned to confront him. Her look was neutral, however, her posture. There is an issue, Mr. Carver. Do not proceed. Feign ignorance, he commanded. Indicating the door where a man and his family had just departed. A consistent and devoted customer, and now he is departed. You understand the reason, due to this individual. He gestured with his chin toward the motorcyclist, emphasizing that individuals of that nature are not welcome. Lily's eyes clouded, although her voice remained steady. Stayed constant. He has not acted, there is nothing amiss. He is merely consuming his meal, like others. I will not betray someone. Excluded only based on their appearance, Carver, he scoffed, stating that it is not concerned with his appearance. Lily. It pertains to business. They influence my unease, and when customers depart, it results in the loss of my funds. That is what is significant, not your trivialities. Lily's hands clenched into a moral stance. With fists at her sides. You desire me to expel him solely to preserve your riches. Safe. Carver squinted his eyes and declared, I desire you. This is my cafe, adhere to my regulations to perform your duties. If you disapprove, you are at liberty to seek alternatives. Lily inhaled sharply at the entrance. That is not the case, indeed, Mr. Carver. This matter extends beyond mere considerations. Monetary considerations dominate all aspects. Carver, interjecting abruptly. You believe that benevolence yields rewards. The invoices you believe a kind grin generates. He leaned in slightly towards the food on the table, softening his tone. The world does not operate in good intentions. Lily operates on power. Reputation and profit. One must choose. Be intelligent enough to maintain pace, or you will be abandoned. Twisted behind Lily's tummy, Carver has always been known for his ruthlessness. Entered the business but found it to be Solif. Carver, utterly speechless, adjusted his sleeves with a barely audible groan. Observing Lily, you are a squanderer of my. Upon termination, complete your shift. Your check and depart. Have caused Lily to freeze. Jaw ajar as if to dispute. However, groans emerged as she surveyed her surroundings. The cafe, at the dejected faces. Discontented personnel, and ultimately at the motorcyclist who was currently observing the interaction with a Carver. Already turned with a sharp, focused stare. Concluded the discussion, however, prior to his. The cyclist resisted the advance. He rose from his chair. His movements were measured and intentional. Retention of his resonant voice. He stepped through the silence. Propelled the weight of his boots against the tile, rendering each step more burdensome. His gaze remained fixed on Carver, unwavering, and his tone is strong as he terminates her employment. Remain tranquil, however, an underlying tension persisted. It is something regulated yet perilous. Carver, exhibiting fundamental decency, crossed his arms in an attempt to seem indifferent. This does not concern you. The biker's lips formed a taut smile, however, it did not reach his eyes. Nonetheless, it will. Do not worry, Lily, he stated, turning to her. Your kindness will not go unrecognized. Certain debts settle in ways that are beyond your control. Envisioning with a final piercing gaze at Carver, the biker departed and proceeded. The sound of the door closing, an unsettling hush, lingered behind him. Cafe interrupted solely by the clinking of cups and whispered dialogues. Carver, despite his collected exterior, could not dissipate the sensation that he had recently created. Lily made a grave error. An intricate combination of trepidation and optimism swirling inside. She was unaware what the future contained, only one certainty: her charity had not gone unrecognized. Remained stationary for a moment, her eyes moving towards the cafe door, secondary residence to which she had devoted her emotions. Every shift now felt nearly alien. She struggled to concentrate while feeling suffocated. Persevering through the final hour, however, the second half an hour elapsed in a haze of agitated motions, cleaning surfaces, receiving commands, and engaging in brief silences and glances accompanied by colleagues. The burden of her termination persisted, making each task more burdensome than prior to that, when she was getting ready to proceed to the back office to retrieve her paycheck with a subdued rumble that disrupted the tranquility of the cafe. The more burdensome than prior, the presence of something or initially, someone was apt to retrieve Lily. dismissed it as merely the typical congestion trundling along the primary thoroughfare, yet shortly the sound amplified, growing louder. More consistent, nearly rhythmic, like to a pulse resonating subtly through the walls of the cafe. She halted, her senses heightened. And faced the front of the contemplating the identity of the structure. One motorcycle thundered into the profound rumble of their parking lot, engines progressively increasing in volume, riders attired in leather jackets and distressed denim, their visages obscured by dark headgear. Sunglasses materialized from the mist of once half-vacant. The lot was soon filled with noise. An expanding multitude of bicycles, dozens, then hundreds, and ultimately over 100, aligned themselves with the military. Each bike's arrival was precise. Wave of energy through the air, engines resounding in unison, shaking the ground beneath Lily's feet from hundreds. Sound of clinking links, the delicate rustle of leather permeated. Their eyes remained steely and still. Unyielding unison, shaking area as they proceeded with an aura of authority. This was not merely a little pause, as something was imminent. Atmospheric changes occurred. Discussions ceased abruptly. Consumers halted mid-bite, their eyes attracted to the unfolding spectacle. A woman outside at the window seized her coat, murmuring something regarding departing prior to the situation deteriorating. A youth. The couple swiftly settled their payment while glancing anxiously towards the door situated behind the Lily's colleagues traded. Josh, a barista, leaned with wide-eyed stares directed at her, his voice quivering with amalgamation of dread and blame. Regarding your actions, he murmured to Lily, his voice barely audible, the faraway rumble of engines. Lily did not react. Her gaze was riveted on the principal motorcyclist, who had alighted and was approaching the cafe entrance as the door opened with a tinkle. Instantly, he identified him. It was the same biker she had previously protected. The room became hushed upon his entrance, his boots resonating against the tiled surface. His presence commanded attention. However, there was no threat in his demeanor. Expression solely composed. Lily clutched the strap with resolve. He halted before her, clutching her bag firmly as he neared the counter. He removed his helmet, exposing a benevolent expression. However, I did not have the opportunity to previously introduce myself, he stated, his deep voice resonating through the tranquil cafe. Marcus, the commander of this crew, nodded to Lily, attempting to stabilize her voice. I am Lily. Marcus smiled weakly, acknowledging his debt to you. Lily, you defended me when no one else did. Otherwise, individuals would assess me based on my actions. Observe, however, you perceive me as somebody who signifies more than you comprehend. Lily shrugged, despite her flushed cheeks. That I simply acted as every individual ought to. Marcus asserted emphatically that the majority of individuals neither forget nor would have. Such goodwill prompted him to address the others of the cafe, his voice elevated slightly. We are not present to instigate conflict. We are here to express our gratitude to all. The bikers commenced entering. The cafe's formidable presence softened when they began placing requests, but rather than merely requesting, they insisted on paying for themselves. All individuals within the Marcus stated, a presence softened desire in the room. The process of confronting the astonished clientele is underway. The ambience in the cafe began to reassure customers who had been apprehensive a moment ago. I observed the bikers, Marcus, with wonder, and then underway. He directed his gaze to Lily, his countenance kind yet resolute. We could not just remain vigilant following the earlier incident. Defended me, and as a result, I regret that you lost your job. We understand the root cause of your difficulties, and we are here to address them. Just remain. Lily's intervention he acknowledged with a discreet nod towards two individuals. Bikers adjacent to the door they exited. Advance one possessing a sealed envelope, a little collection of keys belonging to Marcus. He grabbed both and placed them on the counter before her as instructed, his voice unwavering. The mail contains the deed to a cafe. Methods from this location are Marcus furnished and prepared my crew and I worked together to create these methods. This will occur from this point on. You will possess your personal space where you establish the regulations, and no one can deprive you of that. Lily's breath caught as she gazed at the envelope and keys in her hands. I find myself utterly speechless. This is excessive. I cannot acquiesce to this. Your being here is profoundly significant. Marcus smiled and shook his head in response. That it is not excessive, Lily. You merely did not stand up for me. You have stood up for all of us. People like us face continuous judgment. Time only based on our appearance. However, you recognize that such occurrences do not go. A woman with braided hair went unnoticed. A congenial, understanding smile advanced. Marcus recounted the events, and we all concurred. someone of your caliber merits greater recognition. More than a mere expression of gratitude, hence, we made sure to keep you updated on the situation. You'll never have to deal with someone like the cafe owner and the other motorcyclists. Nodded, their expressions benevolent, yet Lily gulped. Her voice was filled with determination. Merely above a whisper, and I do not even. Do any of you understand the rationale for your actions? Something akin to this for me, a robust motorcyclist, that I chuckled deeply when I realized that you were helping one of your family members, Lily. This family prioritizes the well-being of its members. Lily blinked quickly, trying to hold back the tears that were stinging her. I still feel uneasy about this, that I did not act with expectation, that I didn't look for anything in return. I just carried out the task that was required of me. The precise rationale for your entitlement, Marcus articulated resolutely, and we are not accepting a negative response. Respond to this. It is not charity. Lily. Appreciation from all of us. A whisper of consensus spread among the group, and additionally, another biker said that we are not merely delivering a cafe and departing. We will be here as you approach the sunset. Require our assistance to initiate your process. Lily exhaled, realizing she was not alone in this. She did not realize she was holding a sad smile emerging as she grasped the packet tightly against her chest. I am uncertain how to express my gratitude to all of you. This signifies everything to me. Marcus. Smiled. You have already accomplished more than it is now your opportunity to allow others assist us by making a singular vow. You are operating that cafe. Do not alter it. Who you are is essential. The world requires more individuals like you, similar to you. Lily nodded, her heart bursting. Her gratitude was implicit. She was acutely aware of whatever else she possessed and discovered bustling. Today, she found more than just kindness. She found family, and the cafe was bustling. When the bikers conversed with the boisterous laughter of consumers and staff and authentic warmth permeating the room, platters of cuisine and vessels of coffee were distributed, financed by the bikers who were certain that no one departed in hunger. Nearby, standing rigidly at his office entrance, Carver stood with his arms crossed, watching the event unfold. Was C.R. Frost. Although his posture was deficient in its customary authority, his gaze oscillated between the cheerful consumers and the bicyclists, jaw clenched as the reality dawned upon him. Cafe, he had governed with strictness. The hand was more vibrant than it had ever been. It was unrelated to him. For a flea bicyclist aunt, his sight rested upon expressing her gratitude. Esteem for matters he had never afforded her were currently arriving from total. He swiftly averted his gaze from the strangers, altering his position as though attempting an appearance of control, yet no one was paying him any attention. The motorcyclist elevated his voice while standing. By the door, let this serve as a reminder. Do not occasionally assess individuals based on their appearance. The most rugged individuals are those with the most generous hearts. The room became silent. The words resonated for a moment before a ripple of applause erupted, intensifying the atmosphere. Increasingly louder until the entire cafe was. Lily, overwhelmed, surveyed her surroundings while clapping. By the appreciation and friendliness permeating the initial instance of space that evening, she experienced hope, a conviction that circumstances will improve. It will be fine. Marcus offered her a slight reassurance nod before departing. We shall see. We will be with you, Lily. So there is no need for concern. Ensure your new residence is a success. When the cyclists ascended, their motorcycles departed into the night, the cafe appeared more luminous and vibrant, as though Lily grasped the weight that had been lifted. Keys in her possess. Iona smile emerging amidst her tears. At that point, she comprehended that occasionally kindness tends to return to the giver in manners you would not anticipate. Within a few weeks, Lily's cafe rapidly gained popularity. Cherished location in the city, inviting and hospitable, imbued with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee with artisanal pastries, it encompassed everything she had previously envisioned. Clients who formerly occupied a seat in Carver's cafe now opt for her instead, attracted by the benevolence she infused every interaction with, her care for individuals, and her authentic grin. Carver had deemed it insignificant, becoming the fundamental basis of her. Conversely, Carver observed success. From a distance, Carver watched as his once thriving business abandoned its rigid rules, and the cold atmosphere could no longer compete with the warmth of Lily's cafe throughout the day. The day his regular patrons ceased attending, favoring their current location, they were welcomed with a grin accompanied by their names, were recalled and experienced a sense of belonging at home. One afternoon, the recognizable rumble The sound of motorcycles reverberated down the street. The biker crew fulfilled its promise. Lily's cafe is a regular destination for them. Rides as they occupied the area with Marcus leaned in, laughing and narrating. Smiling, informed you from the counter would ensure this location was. Lily chuckled, surveying her surroundings. The bustling cafe was more than hers. Returned as she gazed out the window, observing Carver gazing from across the street. She experienced no sensation. Bitterness yields only gratitude and certain significance. He recognized the instruction. They express gratitude for your viewership. This narrative resonates. You do not forget to like, subscribe, and share to disseminate the inspiration. And before to your departure, examine the videos displayed on your screen are many. The videos on your screen feature additional heartwarming narratives that we assure you will appreciate. Click immediately to retain the benevolence.